Now in this video I'm going to show you when you really have a printhead clog or just caused by air. A lot of times with the Epsons, people think they're clogged. So they go and they clean and clean and clean. They actually make it worse. A lot of times it has nothing to do with an ink clog. You'll know when you have an ink clog, and I'll show you how you'll know that. A lot of times when you fill refillable cartridges or the Epson cartridges, you actually create the problem. And I'll show you why. I'm going to take over here. There's all different kinds of cartridges on the market. Now the Epson is a very unique cartridge. It's got a set of baffles, and it's got a little chamber up in here that controls flow of ink to cut down on the amount of air that gets sucked into the printhead. Now this is the type we use, has a micro screen, has a couple check valves in the back, doesn't need any priming. It's really a unique cartridge and we like it. Now there's a lot on the market, like this one here. If you can see, it's got the little round circle in the center and everything. They're not bad, but the problem is we find that you pretty much have to prime them every time you refill them. And there again, there's another one out there that looks like this. In all our testing, we found these to be the best. They're as close to the Epson as they can possibly be made. Now, I'm going to take the cartridges out, pretend I fill them and put them in. And then we're going to create that problem of it looks like you have a clogged printhead. Or if you don't use the printer for a couple days, what happens is it dries out on the nozzle plate. And I'll go into that in about a minute. So let me go over here to this Epson. I got an old Epson 3640 that we use for testing, and I'll open it up. You can see I've got refillables in there. Now, I'm going to pick them up. Now, I'm not going to fill them. Just going to pick them up and set them back down in. Okay? Now, on this side of the printer, in the back, you've got the maintenance box. As this printer cleans, it squirts it into a sponge area, which it's under a little pump under there. It draws it in and squirts it into the maintenance box. The older Epsons didn't have that. They would coat out. But the newer Epsons have it. So you can go around the back and you can replace that box. We sell them on our website. Okay, now I'm going to close it up. And then we'll go over here and we'll go to setup. Okay, I don't want to look. Well, let's look at the ink levels first. So I'm getting low, but see now it's not the time to refill. Or when you get that warning that comes up and says low ink, do not, and I mean this, do not take the cartridge out and fill it, because then you upset what I call the droplet count. So then the printer didn't know you did that, so it always remains where it was left off. So it gets out of sync, I call it. Okay, so say okay. Now we're going to go to maintenance, and we're going to print out a nozzle check. Now I'm going to create problems so I can show you how you can fix the problem. Because I get a lot of calls, a lot of emails, my printhead's clogged. All right, here it comes out. Now, I was just getting almost a perfect nozzle. And now look what happened. Go slow here so you can see. See? Now I lost my magenta. And the black looks pretty good. Now, the reason why it's so light, I'm using our sublimation ink. Because I was doing some sublimation printing. Here's what happens when you use a dye-based ink. You put it in. The printer sends a charge to the printhead. What that basically does is excites the ink and causes it to be pushed through the nozzle. If the dye-based ink is not correct, it creates too many air bubbles. Then you have constant, you think it's clogging, constant problems with your printing. So in this printer, because they use a Durabright ink, that's our pigment ink called Ultra Pro, That's all you want to use. But what's nice about it, you can use some other inks like sublimation ink, or if you're doing that type of printing. Okay, now I'll go over and I'm going to clean the printhead. Never clean a printhead more than 3 times. And the reason for that is if you go on beyond 3, you just make matters worse. Do 3, let it sit, wait a while. Now here's our first one. After taking the cartridges out, same thing can happen when you're going to fill them. So if you keep taking the cartridges in and out, you have to go in and do a lot more cleanings. Now no more than 3. So I'm going to do 1, and then I'm going to print out a nozzle check. And then I'll take you right through this. Okay, now I've got to hit the print out the nozzle check again. This is my first cleaning. I already have the first one that I did after I got done and I took those cartridges out. Okay, now here's the second one. Now you see, the cyan came back. But if you notice, in the black, I'm missing 1 or 2 of the little grids there. See them there? Now I can go in there and do one more cleaning and just clean black. So I'm going to do that because now my colors look good. If you do over cleaning, you just make matters worse. So go over here, press the clean again, proceed, and then there. Now I could have changed it to all black, but I didn't do it. Sometimes you can do it, depending on the printer. Sometimes you have to do it. They make you do all the colors. My third one. So let's print that out. Okay. Now, this is what happens after you refill it sometimes, or you take them in and out. You can see the black looks good. Again, I'm a little bit of a problem with my magenta on my third cleaning, but previously my magenta wasn't giving me hardly any problems. Now, how would I fix that? Well, what I do, let's open up the printer. I come up here. Now, I took the cover off, okay, because I had a Black Tower system on here also. So you'll have, if you're using refillables, you're going to have that cover on there. So let's go to done. And then what we're going to do is replace the cartridges. Put your hands on the side and lift it. Now the reason I'm doing that is so I can get it over, because then I could open that top that would be on there. Normally, like this, I would just reach in. I'm going to reach in there and just remove the fill plug. That's what I'm going to do. Just remove it, set it on the table. Now here's what's going to happen. Gravity in the atmosphere is going to help me, because as it pulls the ink in, it's going to be able to put a little bit more in there than just waiting for the suction of the printhead. Now Epson has this utility. That's why they have the same problem with their own cartridges. If you've owned an Epson and you've used Epson cartridges, you can see that happen quite a bit. That's because you're running the printer in either draft or normal. I recommend, especially on the precision core ones, you run them in best. Plain paper best. Or whatever the setting is that shows on your printer. Now I'm going to reach behind it and I'm going to unplug it. And then after I unplug it, I'm going to show you where the ink goes after you do all these cleanings. Okay, right down in here, see a lot of ink there. And what I want you to look real close here, as the printhead goes over it, there's a little motor underneath here with a little suction action. It actually draws the ink out of the printhead and squirts it into the waste box in the back. You don't want to tamper with this area at all, because you can, have a real problem. Now, sometimes I found out that these particular maintenance areas here, they don't work well. Sometimes they don't work hardly at all. And it doesn't prime that printhead back up again. I've seen it time and time again. Or if you clean too much, you'll flood this area. Flooding this creates a lot of your problems. Because when it goes back and forth, it's flooded and it won't fire correctly. So that's why I say no more than 3 cleanings. No more than 3 cleanings. Now the way I usually jump start it is I take out, if I'm not having a problem with either one of these colors, but I'm having a problem with my magenta, I would take out the fill plug. Now obviously you can't do that on an Epson cartridge, only on a refillable. But that helps the printer when it's drawing over here, because these collection areas here, I've seen it in a lot of the Epson printers, I mean a lot, that they don't work well. Some of them work quite well, and they draw the ink and that. Now, if it was truly a clog, you would get nothing, or the particular block that's clogged up wouldn't change. But on this one, it's jumping around. It's going on this one, that one, and that's why I know it's air that's causing that. And because I took the cartridge out before I should have and put it in, I've created that. I did that to show you. So now I'm going to close it up, turn it back on, and I'm going to do 1 cleaning. And let's see how the magenta looks. To a cleaning right now. So I won't have to go in and do any cleaning. Okay, I'm going to say okay. Go back to setup, maintenance, print nozzle, check. Let's print it out. Let's see. My goal is to get it, the color almost there. Okay, big improvement. Big improvement. I'm missing just a little bit right there. And I'm going to clean that up in a second. Now, if it was a clog, you would get no ink coming out, or no change would happen when you do different cleanings. That's why we have this little tool, and we have our fast-acting cleaner. We can go right over the nozzle and clean it out. Now, if the cleaner doesn't go in, then you really have a nozzle problem, and you have a printhead clog. And sometimes it's from the ink, sometimes it's from lack of use. That's just what you have to put up with these Epsons. Earlier today I did a nozzle check, and they were all coming out pretty good, almost perfect. Now if you notice on the blue right here, there's a little spot. That's been there since the day we unboxed the printer. So that doesn't alarm me, because there's a way to get around that. But somebody would see that and they would clean, 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 and all they do is waste ink and cause more problems. Because the same printer printed this and this. Now that's the sublimation ink. When I printed this one, I had pigment ink in. So now let's see where I'm going to print out the nozzle check pattern. Let's see what it looks like. Now I'm going to stop, because if you keep doing this, all you do is make matters worse. Now here, the last one, I want you to look very close at this. See that? Exactly what I told you would happen. I cleared it up that way. I cleared it up. Open this up. I took that plug out and I used gravity and atmosphere to help me get the air out of that printhead. I wanted to do this video because it's important that you know this, because I get a lot of calls. It's not the ink, it's not the cartridges. Believe it or not, it's the printer. And that's why Epson built that utility in. So now there again, there would be a cover here, but I don't have it on this one. I took it off, so I put that back in. But never take the cartridge out to fill it when it says low. Only take it out when it says cannot recognize. Just like if you were waiting for your Epson cartridge to go empty. You don't take them out early to throw them away, so you don't want to do the same thing with these. Then you create your problem. Now I'm going to close it. I'm going to say done. Now I'm going to go over to the computer and I want to show you how I set these printers up. And I have very little problems overall with them. But it's not the ink unless you bought poor quality ink or you're using a cheap dye-based ink. Then you're going to have the problem. Switched over to our Ultra Pro pigmented ink cartridges because the sublimation is really light. It was hard in the video to show it to you. So I switched it over. I've got a very good nozzle check on my colors, and my black has just one spot up there. You can see, even on this one here from a sublimation, there's one little thing missing. Now that's not the cartridges or the ink, it's mostly the printer. I see that a lot. Just like this printer here. From the day I unboxed it, I could never get rid of that little missing blue area on the nozzle check, no matter what I've done. But now I can improve on the copy quality by setting it for a better or a higher quality. Now I have this little tip with the little rubber extender on it. Sometimes I'll go in and I'll manually add to the print head. I'll just add a little bit of ink, not a lot. So I would go to setup, then I would go to ink levels, and then I'm going to pick replace the cartridge, and then I can lift it up. And there again, you're not, okay, now I brought the cartridge over so I could open this, the little cover that they have here. Now in mine, I don't have the cover. I took it off because I've installed a Black Tower refill system. But now I get a light and shine it down there. See that? See them sticking up there? The little nozzle. That's actually the needle. That goes down into the printhead cavity. I'm going to put that little hose over the top of that and just a little bit of ink, not a lot. Actually, by pushing it in like that, I'm going to push out some of the air, or if there should be a foreign particle blocking it, that'll help push it out. Now I'll just a tiny bit of ink I'm going to put in there. And this will also tell you if the nozzle's clogged, because if you can't put any ink in, well then you know you have a clogged nozzle. Now you have to use cleaner. I'll print out a nozzle check. I just squirted a little bit of ink in there. I don't expect it to come out because that's like flooding it a little bit. So, but I just want to show you what happens when you do that. I put in very little, maybe a few drops of it. Adding that, I corrected that little problem. Sometimes you have to do that. Now there's one little break right there. Now again, if I go back and compare it, it comes and it goes. So that's something in there that keeps moving around. May jump over here. But don't clean anymore. You can just set your quality a little bit better and you won't even see that. So I'll go over and print something out. Because if you keep, cleaning the printhead, then all you're doing is wasting ink and causing more problems. Let me go over and print something out now. Here it comes. I picked some with type and photograph just to show you. Now this is our Ultra Pro Pigment ink. See that? Perfect. Perfect. That's how you fix the problem when you can't get it to print and you think it's the cartridges or you think your print head's clogged. Really good. That's a photograph on plain paper. So if you do need cleaner, go to inkproducts.com and we'll sell you our fast-acting cleaner. It's good to keep it on hand should you ever run across the problem when you need it. I hope this video helped explain why you get poor nozzle checks.